All right, this is episode 3 of the Gambling Odyssey, and today we actually have a guest, Alfredo and Richard. I don't know Alfredo's craps nickname, but Richard goes by Tsunami, and of course you know me as Dr. C. So we're going to open up with Alfredo. He's going to tell us a little bit about it, and go ahead and unmute yourself, Alfredo. You can keep yourself unmuted during this one.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and just let you go ahead and rock and roll. Do you have a call sign that you use for craps?
So it's Texas Crap Shooters is what the TCS or Alfredo TCS is what a lot of people know me as.
Oh, nice.
Started the channel a couple of years ago. Ran through a strategy that seemed mathematically to make sense. From a logical sense, made sense. But when you go and apply it with real money at a live craps table, I think I lost the quickest $2,000 I've ever lost in my life playing craps. And I mean, I played for a long time, and I've lost more than that in a day. But it was just insane how quickly I lost that amount of money. And I wanted to start a craps channel just to make sure that people were aware of like hybrid strategies, sometimes how bad they can be, and exponentially difficult it can push you in a bind by chasing someone that's picking off a number, and you're trying to play both sides, and you're stuck actually getting further and further down very, very, very quick. So
yeah, we see a lot of that in roulette. That's the most common, when you'll see people sticking with strategies and then you find them like 50 grand in the hole.
Yeah, it just sounds great, right? But hey, you're mitigating your loss, because if this comes, well, what happens when that number is hit? You're not losing $25. They're telling you to go lay $150. Now you're losing twice of what you had, because that number hits, and then they seven out, after they establish an X point, and all of a sudden you're down even more money. So it's
I think knowing
it's
crap strategies and payouts is a good thing for people to learn. But the biggest problem I find with a lot of people who, just don't get it, they try to take a strategy, you show them something like how to do an iron cross, and they think, oh, this is the solution for everything. And they'll just like, and they'll try, or they'll, and the worst one is when people, martinet or start just double pressing. It's like
ladder, and at some point you get beyond what's recoverable.
I've seen a few channels going after that. The big one would be like Ed and Gargoyle. I like what they've come out recently, and they're just like, hey, we're not here to blow smoke up your butt and sell you a holy grail that doesn't exist. If you're looking for the holy grail, then keep looking, because you're never going to find it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, so I started a channel a couple of years ago with that in mind, and almost all my content's live for the most part. I think, if you look at my channel, Texas Crap Shooters on YouTube, I probably have upwards of 900 lives with the course of the last couple of years.
Wow.
And they're not just for an hour, right? Like, I'm playing live and people are playing along with me for 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours.
Do you do the crapsy?
Well, I was one of the first ones to do it.
Nice.
So, Arnell was the first, essentially, that really adopted it. And then Jeff and I from Atlantic Craps both started having people jump on, and both of us hit the limit of 6. So initially you couldn't have more than 6 players. And I think the idea of Crapsy was that you have one side of the table that you're able to play with. Well, I was using it more as a communication piece with people that wanted to play along with me, and it was a good way to get to people and sort of communicate through betting and through what I'm doing with the dice. And so that just grew. We had our biggest 90 days since growing the channel. And the last 90 days, I think it grew over 1,200 subscribers in the last 90 days. And so the first 1,200 probably took over 18 months. The last 1,200, took over just 90 days. Sort of crazy. It's blown up.
Yeah, they really do. It starts to expand pretty quickly once you start having followers. So what got you into craps originally? What was that, your first game you ever got into, or you just kind of migrated over?
No. So I'll tell you the story, the nightmare story, right? And it wasn't a crap story. It was I started gambling. I had no common sense, right? Like, I guess I was so eager to get to the time where I could gamble at 21 that I saved up 24,000. Didn't know you're not supposed to take that amount of money gambling. Well, I proceeded with my aunt over at the Flamingo to put $14,000 in the Betty Boop slot machine, and her love meter never hit over $50, and it was a $3 max bet every time, and I got never over a $50 payout. And she's sitting next to me hitting a $1,600 payout, $1,800 payout. I'm like, it has to hit, it has to hit, it has to hit. I finally start looking, I'm like, holy shit, I'm like, a lot of money. This is ridiculous. And I don't play slots really anymore, unless I'm trying to fill some tier credit for something or something like that. It merged me to blackjack, which coincidentally is right next to the craps table. And probably within the first year, because I could do a light card count in my head, I did really well at blackjack. I take the profits and just go and dunk the money trying to learn the game of craps. And I didn't learn the game of craps until a Hawaiian over at the Orleans sat next to me and I was shooting. I already had a throwing station, 20 something years ago. And I was throwing well. So, and he's like, you're not making any money. I had like maybe $300 in red chips. I think I had like one green chip in my rack. And he's like, you're not making any money. In the same time period, I saw his rack go from green with a little bit of black to almost all black. And he's like, just try to mirror what I'm doing. And I think we went through that session. My whole rack turned green. The next back rack turned to green. The front rack turned to all black. The back rack turned all black. We sat there for probably a good 8 to 9 hours playing, and we both had back-to-back good rolls 3 different times where he had a 20 plus, I had a 20 plus, and then I had a 40 to end it, and we left there. I think it was one of the bigger cash outs that I had ever had at that point, and it was because I learned how to press and I learned how to take a little bit, and I think at that point I learned how to actually lose more money because I started getting addicted to the pressing. Which is the interesting thing, right? Until you start to learn the proper points of regression and when you should get out of the hand or balance your rack and all that.
Would you say a lot of that is because people don't pay attention to how much money they have on the table?
Yeah, I think they get caught up in sometimes it could be they're the shooter. Sometimes you're just caught up in the emotion of the game, right? And when it's a good vibe on the table, you feel like it's never going to end. And if you play it long enough, you know that all runs come to an end. Some of them get over the hump of getting from the teens to the mid-20s. Some of them get over that hump of the good roll to monster roll into the 30s, and then 40, 50 plus really is relegated to, for some people, once in a lifetime rolls. I've rolled tons of those, and
right.
it's attributed just because of practice, right?
It's funny when you hear people like you and me talk about like 30 plus rolls, and you'll have other individuals roll their eyes, like, oh, that doesn't happen, and then like, well, maybe not for you, but the people I hang out with, we expect it.
Yeah.
I mean, not expect, but it's like shoot a 3-pointer. You expect Larry Bird to hit it,
I expect it every trip, and it's disappointing when it doesn't happen, but you can't, like, this is the other thing that I've told some friends, because we'll meet up in Chicago with some lights out great shooters, right? And I'll be there, and I've been here, where I'm at today, which is at the Orleans. This used to be my one spot. Like I played here I was an Onyx player, one of their heavier betters, and they give you a bunch of comps and all these different things, and you're getting $1,100 to show up and play for 3 hours, 4 hours. It's not too bad, right? Whether they pay for your airfare or not, I mean, that could pay for it itself, and that could jumpstart you. And so I take advantage of that, but they've since changed a lot of the rules, and people that are winning, they're actually cutting their rewards down. And so
Are
I've
they
seen users
really?
now play everywhere.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
There's people that have been at the max bet at the max Macy's reward, which is 1,100, that are now cut down to 500, some to 250, some to 100, which just doesn't make it worthwhile.
I guess they don't want their money back.
Well, I think the lure for a lot of them, right? So it's the Hawaiians who they cater to here with
Yep.
Boyd, and they fly them in, and they'll actually still reimburse for their airfare for those that are actually in Hawaii. But you have to put a certain amount of time and a certain amount of average bet. That used to, it's estimated loss is what they're supposed to go by. It's time played versus average bet versus how many hours are you giving per day, and then they use that equation. Well, the ELO is no longer used now. The corporations are tightening the belts. They're taking away different things, but at the same token, we'll say, okay, I'll go ahead and comp you for a $300 meal. I'm one person. Like, I'd rather have you comp me for my $350 flight. But yeah.
We found that we just try not to roost in one casino too long, if you know what I mean. We'll spread it around. We learn our tables, but we've always tried to keep it on the low. But at the same time, they offer you all these comps, so you're kind of obligated to, hey, here I am. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I think when you get to a certain level, you kind of have to start thinking about that, especially when it's not worth the comps. It's not worth.
Yeah. It's not worth chasing the comps at all. Richard probably can tell you.
I'm gonna let Richard jump
today.
in.
Yeah, we had what, six? I don't think you stuck around to eat, but we had, I think, $650 in comp food. Like, we're not going to eat that, so we loaded up in appetizers and drinks and extra other stuff. I have a bag full of dried mangoes that were off their shelf. I took all of them.
We had an experience back at the old Hooters where they gave Richard this stupid size. I think it was $1,000 comp, and then we ended up going in. Go ahead and tell it, Richard, because you saw it better than me.
Yes, this was back when Hooters Casino had the Dan Marino's restaurant. That was the higher end place. And so we went in there and we're like, $1,000. I'm like, all right, well, let's just order everything we can eat. And you were like, yeah, I just want the tuna, but not the salad part. But they're like, well, you have to have the salad with the tuna. And we're like, can you just not
tuna? I love ahi tuna.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they were like, no. We're like, okay, fine. Well, let's just get 3 of those ahi tuna salads, and we'll just eat the tuna and throw away the salad. I mean, we might have a couple of pieces of lettuce or whatever. And then we got we split that. What was that? The barbecue burger thing?
Oh,
so we had half of that. And
we ended up ordering one of everything off the menu is what we did.
Yeah. Because we wanted to try everything.
As a joke, we bought food for people around us, and we got off menu item.
Yeah. The best off menu item was the what was the big giant kettle pan of a cookie dough or whatever it was?
It was a giant
brownie
cookie. Yeah, it was a cookie.
Yeah. It's huge. And it wasn't.
I thought it was going to be like garbage because they brought it out wrapped in cellophane. They were like, oh, it's off the menu item. And then when you ate it, it was actually really good. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to have a cookie that this size tastes good. But we were having such a good time giving all the food away and blowing $1,000 in a restaurant that we'd never done. We went to the hosts and we went to the dealers and we're like, hey, have you ever tried a $5,000 cookie? And they were like, no. And they tasted it and they were like, where did you get this? We're like, we got it from Dan Marino's. And they're like, there's no cookie at Dan Marino's. And we're like, yeah, it's off the menu. We didn't even know either. We just got it by accident because we literally ordered everything on the menu.
Oh yeah. I ordered 3 things of the short rib because I love short ribs. I didn't even eat all three. They got into the second one now. I realized I over ordered. Took one for the room, but it was crazy. So I think you guys asked about like a fish story, right? This very trip, we were over at the Palms, myself and Keely, and we went over there, bought in for 1,000, and it just everything I was trying, whether it was setting the dice to a 3V set, setting the dice to a Hardway set, setting the dice to a mix set, like a mutant set, nothing was working. I tried a higher arch, I tried a lower arch, and we get to the point where there's this guy to my left, like playing the dome. He's just annoying the shit out of me because he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's winning out of stupidity, and then going and blowing the money, trying to hit a yo for $25 a pop, and he keeps throwing $25, using the money he was winning from the dome. And I get down to like $26. Keely's like, let's go one more time. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. He told me that, and then I, just getting over to me, I was losing money, and I was like, well, I only have $26 before the lady. I'm not going back in my pocket. I'm not going to buy back in. I haven't figured it out. So I told him, I said, I'm going to make this 26 work. I said, I'm going to go onto the 6, and if it hits, I'm going to get on the 8. And if that hits, I'm pressing them both to 42. And if that hits, I'm going to collect the 50 and then collect another 50 and then try to get it a little bit over that and go on myself. And so the lady before me ends up rolling 6, an 8, an 8, a 9, which I'm not on, a 9, an 8. I get onto the 9 for $15 because I'm mad at myself at this point because she's already hit it, I think, 3 times. And she hits another 2 9s, and then I pull everything down. Had enough to go on myself for 15 on the line, 10, 10, 10, and green chips across. And I ended up not only hitting a bunch of numbers, I reset the ATS, I go 10, 15, 10, and I end up hitting the all, and I hit a wrap of the numbers, and I cash out at 7,000. So I go from $26, the person before me, to enough money to play across at green chip level, to cashing out at $7,000 by the end of my roll. Unreal.
And that's not
an hour and 40-minute roll.
We don't want to say that. That's
not normal at all.
We're calling it a big fish story because we don't expect me to believe the stories. That's the whole premise of our big fish stories. No.
Keely was there, and
yes,
Hunter Killer was there, who's Bubble Crap Hunter Killer. He was there. He passed me. I had nothing in my rack. He cashes out at like 3,800 on Bubble Craps. He comes over and he's just in awe because my whole rack is full. And I'm collecting black chip after black chip after black chip. And then I end up hitting the all because I had just hit like one of the sides. And he's like, no one on earth would ever believe this type of roll could happen or exist. And so Big AZ Guru, Crafts Guru, he has a big channel out there. And we came up with something I've used for a long, long time. We call it the top secret toss. It's the TST. And all it is setting up the reds, throwing it as hard as you can right into the fish bowl, right into the mixing bowl.
But you're doing an all 7 set? Yeah.
All 7 set, letting the dice explode, trying to hope for non-perfection, right? I don't want them to stay on axis. I want them to go off axis and not be a primary hit.
I like the off axis for people who are, especially if the table's not working out.
50 rolls later, $7,000 color. Crazy. I'm still positive for the trip.
We've all seen that if we play craps. I've seen the craziest stuff like that. I mean, I believe that you did it, and one of the reasons is, like you were talking about Hawaiians. I was at the old Horseshoe, but before it was Horseshoe, it was basically whatever, Bally's or whatever. So I'm sitting there playing, and this kid walks up from Hawaii, and he's like, I gotta get the plane, and he's like, but I'm down, like whatever, and he's like, his turn to roll, and he goes, hey, put $100 on 11, yo. We're like, okay, what the guy is this? He grabs the dice, he rolls an 11, and he goes, max press, press it all the way up. So he's like at $500. He rolls it 7 more times. I could not believe it. And I only got 3 of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a table with chef dice, and the table was bad. Everyone was losing money. And a guy throws an ace deuce. Then he throws another ace deuce. And Richard probably can confirm, I will play the horns during the roll, before the roll. And I will usually try to take advantage of it, knowing that it's coming, and then press it up. This guy hits another 3. I go from everyone losing at the table to winning money because I hit an ace deuce, I parlay it. I hit an ace deuce, I do the stupid thing and parlay the horn high ace deuce because he hits another one. And then I actually turn another bet into a horn high yo, and he hits the yo. And it's insane. It's like 5 ace deuces and into a yo, something that shouldn't happen mathematically, but it happens.
I mean, you could turn a $5 yo bet into $1,175 in 2 throws by parlay.
Yeah, the reverse random shooting, just setting the 7 and chucking them down there like you don't care, and it's like, wow, hey, I'm not losing. That's great, and it's like, all right, and then some of the amazing things you can see people can just bet on, press, max parlay, and everything else, and next thing you know, you're up huge. I mean, normal playing in strategy isn't like that because statistically in the long run, the house will win. You'll probably go broke. But when it happens and you take advantage of it in the short term, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, we did the same thing. Richard and I, we went opening night on our opening weekend for Resort Worlds. And I had been kicking butt at South Point a few places, which I'll never go about to again. But anyway, we did well at South Point at a couple casinos. And I took my winnings.
They've taken the dice from me twice.
I can tell you,
yeah.
I am probably the first person to get kicked out of South Point because I was there opening week. I had a timeshare across the street. They were just opening up. These goofballs put the gators, they put them upside down. So the gators were on the top rim of the table and the flat part was on the bottom. I proceeded to just take them for as much as I could. And at one point, one of the pit bosses, which he still works there. I recognize him. He had hair at the time. He looks at me and he tells my wife and me, he's like, "Yeah, you're done." And my wife goes, "What did he do?" And she says, "No, sorry, sweetie, your husband's been batting over 300 and we can't afford that." And so they just told us to leave. So that was my first experience at South Point. Yeah.
They made something up with me. 30 rolls in, they took the dice while I was rolling and said I had one dice that didn't hit the back wall. And I was like, Are you kidding me? Like, you didn't warn me or anything. Nope, you're in the system. You didn't hit the back wall. You no longer get to shoot the dice.
I like South Point. I don't want to
and then I'm like,
much.
I'm in the system for what?
Yeah.
Being a good player, I guess.
That's the problem with that place. If you play craps, don't go to South Point, period. If you want to play roulette or slots or poker or just go do there and be a family thing, great place to go. I think the staff are great. They're a locals casino. They do a great job. They hustle. I would say whatever the problem of the owner or the management of their craps table brings a real black eye to the location. So it just is their way of saying, hey, we don't want you there. And that's fine. They don't like craps. That's great.
Yeah. The thing that saddens me is that that's the actual owner that owned the old ones. And he used to treat people great. But it is from what I've heard, I know some folks that have gone there that were pit bosses here, it's really them just sweating the money. The craps table is one of the few places, because they were one of the few places in town that would still carry a $5 table, that they would get hit oftentimes pretty big. And yeah, they can make that money up, but they don't like making that money up. And so when the pit is taking a loss for a night for a huge amount, it puts a lot of heat on the crews, and they do stupid stuff that just doesn't exist. They make shit up and
It reminds
take
me
the
of a
dice
pool hall situation where you go into some pool halls and you're a professional and you play pool your whole life, and you get there and you start, running a game on people because you're playing. The only way to win in pool, if people don't know, is a lot of times you'll lose intentionally and then you just start turning it on once the money gets there. But with a craps table, a lot of these places treat it like it's their, like just because you're an advantage player and you know how to have some skill and you can actually roll the dice and roll 30 rolls or something, they don't want you at all. They just don't like it. And it's not just you is the problem. I went down one time, and I think I intentionally shouldn't have done that, but I had been drinking, and I told my wife I'll only take $200 to the table, and I left all the money in the room because she knew I was going to be drinking. But I went down there and I was kind of mad at them. And I proceeded to basically get drunk, roll the dice, and I rolled a monster roll. And the whole time I was doing it, I was telling everybody, bet as big as you want. We're taking all their money. And I rolled. There's this big player who was there. He had a marker at the South Point, and he was playing the dice, and they wanted to kick me off, and they started to like be rude to me and stuff. And he told him, he says, you say one more thing to my shooter, and I'm out of here. So they backed off for a minute. They let me finish my roll, but after that, the next day I pretty much had a run-in, which I won't talk about, and that was the last time I've been to South Point. But yeah, I won't go back, and never again. Yeah. So
I think you guys said about one of the happier stories. It was over here at the Orleans. It was actually the longest roll I've ever had, and I was on the table that's on the Alligator SideBar site, which is now the Crapless table that they have with the ATS here at the Orleans. And I had a 98 roller with a Hardway set with no 7 until the 98th roll. And someone was keeping track. I think, that was one of the rolls, and Hawaiians are great here. Like, you have a roll like that, you get them unstuck off of markers or something like that, you're going to get what they call Baratos from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to come and give you. One person gave me 500, another person gave me 1,000. I mean, there were people that were cashing out. I think there was one person that cashed out.
I'd have given you 1,000 and 100.
Over 80 or 90. But that was a happy story. I didn't expect that the roll was just going to continue to go on and on and on. People had the max bet on the bet placed. They had the max hardways because I was hitting hardways during the time, and they had the place hardways maxed out. I mean, they were hopping the bets, I think, a couple of times and hit it on $100 hop. It was insane. It was this one of those things where I don't know that you're ever going to get in that groove again. And but I've had some long rolls. I have just had the 66 roller that was documented over at Chicago. That one took way longer than it should have. It was almost damn near 3 hours because of the amount I hit the field 66% of the time.
Oh,
I hit
geez.
The horns 33% of the rolls, but I had 11 tens. I think it was 10 fours, and I had 2 6s. One of them was a point, and I finally ended up hitting it, I think 30 something rolls later. And then I had like 7 8s, bunch of 9s. It was just crazy roll. But that was one of the more recent ones. And then Shreveport, I hit it all, and then I hit it all just right now. Shreveport, I was there just last week.
That's nice. Well, make sure you give us your website information. I'll post it in the podcast so people can see the link and check you out, kind of see what you've been doing and follow you too. That would be great.
Yeah. So today here in Las Vegas, we were over at Durango with the Craps Hawaii crew, and they were doing a live recording and stuff.
I was getting the updates as Richard was hanging out with you guys. He's like sending pictures.
Yeah, so that was so hopefully we can include some of those pictures that we took.
I will.
There was a photo started or before we started, and we had some success here and there, and so that'll be interesting when Uncle Mel gets the that video put together and posted. And so as soon as that goes up, we'll definitely include that link or let everyone know to get that checked out and stuff. So, but that was a lot of fun. It wasn't too bad. I had got lunch at Irv's Burger. I thought I would try that, and that wasn't too bad. But didn't do so hot on the craps table, so I decided to find my slot machine so I can get some money back. So walking around different ones, trying to figure out which ones I can. Looks like they're going to have a good chance in winning. And I found this one called the what was it called again? It was the triple the Timber.
The Timberwolves. Yeah, that's what I was telling you about.
Power, yeah. And that's all. Yeah, caught my attention. I'm like, hey, I wonder if this is that slot machine Dave told me about.
Yep, it's the exact one I was telling you about.
Yeah, and the way that one worked, I hit one of the bonuses, and it won like $130 or something. And I was like, that's it? And it should win more than that. So I'm like, well, I'm going to keep playing till the next bonus. So as I'm, pumping in, a few hundred more dollars, I'm like, I'm going to hit this bonus. And now the big, the bowls are like filling up with gold or whatever, and it's not triggering. And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving this machine until I trigger this next bonus, whatever it is. I'm not leaving.
What were you spending, by the way, is just so everybody understands. You were playing pennies, weren't you?
Yeah, it's the penny slot, but you bet the max bet, which on here was just $4. So
no big deal.
So when I finally triggered the center bonus, which was the gold bowl, it defaulted to 10 or 12 free spins. But they have like these incremental bonuses, like you have to hit a couple of these what they look like golden wolves or something, and then that triggers other modifiers to trigger more bonuses. So I got
it's
a
like
couple
the
of
buffalo, but it's modified with wolves.
Yeah, a little bit different. And then on one of the spins, I got an extra 12 free games, and that's what helped me on this bonus level trigger to even higher level bonuses. I got more spins, so that's how I got a $1,200 dollar win, and then I had to wait for the attendant to pay me because got to pay taxes. So, but that's okay because document any losses from other places and offset that. So we'll have to worry about it.
You're a professional gambler, and not many people are.
So. Well, it's trying to be. So, but yeah. But either way, that was cool. But while I was waiting for the attendant, there was a guy walks up to the machine next to me, and it's like, "Hey, what do you got to play to? What level did you play at?" I go, "Oh, just a penny." And he's like, "Max bet?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he's like, he was waiting for his Uber ride. He decides to put in hundreds, and he's like, now instead of waiting, I always let the reels spin and let them stop. I don't just keep pressing the button.
Oh, he's fast spinning, yeah.
Yeah. So he's immediately pressing the button, right? And so while he's doing that, while I'm still waiting for the attendant to come and pay me and do the hand pay, his two bowls are like maxing out on the gold. And so he's putting in like hundreds and hundreds of dollars because he's spending like really fast. He's not even waiting for the reels. And I'm like, hey, I suggested, hey, let the reels spin. So he's like, oh, I can't. I got my ride coming. And I'm like, oh. And I was thinking, maybe his Uber ride, probably. So he decides to just keep going. And then it finally triggers. And his triggered the gold. He won like $400-500 on it. So, but I think the reason why I got the 1,200 one is because I triggered the second bonus, where if I decided to play again on my machine, I probably could have triggered, possibly have a chance at the bucks.
Those are perceived bonuses, though. You know how that works.
It's possible. I don't know how it works or what, and it could just be my wishful thinking. Who knows how it works?
Anything in the window is wishful thinking. That's according to the rules. Everything else is in.
I believe you can trigger both at the same time.
You can
if you get lucky. Yeah.
Yeah,
but how full the bowl is actually a perceptional thing. It doesn't guarantee a jackpot or anything.
True, but it is supposed to, at a certain level, I think, trigger the bonus where you have the chance to get some kind of jackpot number, whatever. So, so that at least it seems interesting. Like that makes it exciting. And
We
and of
don't play
course,
a lot of slots. It sounds funny to hear Richard talking about slots because out of all the times we've gambled, I can count how many times he's played slots on my hands. Literally, it doesn't happen much. I mean, we'll play a couple times, but we usually just walk around, see a machine, and we'll be like a witching rod. We'll be looking for let's go do. We feel lucky on this one, and we'll just hit it and kill it.
I'm sure the table frustrated him because of I mean, it just wasn't a great day, and lo and behold, the cameras go off, and we stay there. Oh, let's go one more. Oh, let's go one more. Oh, let's go one more. And one of the guys there, Fuji, ends up hitting the all. Nice. And Keeley and I are not on it because we're busy talking about something. Well, that gets set up, but I made back probably on his roll because it wasn't just the all that he hit a bunch of numbers. I ended up making like another 350 back off of his roll, and then Keeley nearly hits the all before we end up finally going to dinner, and he only needed a 4, and only him and I are the only ones that laid it, and we're like, well, I have more than $10 on the all. Like, why the hell am I not going to lay the number? Other people are looking at you like you're crazy, but when it's guaranteed money and you can actually lay a number for half of the amount that you're going to win, where you're still going to win the other half if it doesn't hit, yes, you're getting cut down for 50% of what you're putting up there because
you have 100%.
It's a 4 or 10. Yeah, but it's a guaranteed win. Yeah,
it's a guaranteed win. Yeah,
you're securing $500, $600 in a win. That's not going to be there if it doesn't hit.
Yeah, you have to have a big goal to do that, though.
A lot of people don't realize that on one of the point numbers on one of the sides and to lay it as a hedge. And what I do is, exactly what Alfredo was talking about, hedge it. But then I start doing come bets and start pressing the odds on those come bets as they go up, regardless if they hit the point or not, because you can't lose now.
Right. Well, that's why we always bet the sevens before we come out.
If they keep rolling, you're just going to get numbers after numbers after numbers, and then I just go up the levels. Okay, so from 15, then you go $25, then you go 50, then you go 75, go to 100, just like that one time at the opening weekend at Resort Worlds, where we had 3 come bets of $75 with odds on there. Some had max, some had middle odds. And if we had hit one more on the come bets, I was going to go to $100 come bets. And then we're putting the minimum in the field, throwing down a $5 or $10 craps or whatever, and just keep going.
Yep. Yeah, we both. That was a good roll. We both rolled over 30, and I just let Richard do the betting because I was mostly focusing on my roll. And at that time, he was doing a strategy thing, and he always, Richard, you always talk about going to the table and like the guy told you like, hey, you didn't make any money. I always played scared money. I didn't want to lose a lot of money. So this time with money, I just let Richard take over, and I said, you know what, you do the betting, you place for both of us at the same time, and I will just roll the dice. So I'm sitting there rolling. We both missed the all tall small by the 11. I think we needed. I need the 11. You need the 10 or something. It was real close to the tall.
Right.
Yeah,
we just
hit the small. Yeah, we both hit the small. And then that guy walked up. He looked like Marky Mark. There's this white guy. He walks up. He's dressed in gold chains. He's got the Adidas with the multicolors, like colors all over it. It was just out of control. And I thought, this has got to be like a joke. Like, is this a we're on candid camera moment? He puts like $2,000 in the field, and the first thing the dealer says is no bet. All I needed, I'm in the middle of my roll when he does this, like on a monster roll, and he sticks this money right in my path. I am literally rolling down the field line into my magic spot where I was hitting, and I was just crushing. So I had to shoot over the top of it, and I rolled a 10. Which was one of the numbers we needed. We actually needed the 11. And he starts to begin an hour-long argument at the table why he should get paid in the middle of our monster roll. And that time was one of the few times I've cashed out of the casino where I had so much money in my hand, we called it a bank run situation, where I couldn't hold the money in my hands. And I'm 6'6", and my hands could wrap around your entire head. So I could not hold this money, and it was all $100 bills. I'm like, okay, we need to go. And we were right to the Wells Fargo. And I had never deposit. I mean, usually when I deposit money, it's business. So I have like a deposit slip. It's all counted and good to go. And I just grabbed this wad of money and I broke it in half and I stuck half the money in the window. And I said, I want to deposit that. And Ellie goes, how much is it? And I was like, oh, shit, I don't know. About $5,000, I guess, maybe 6. And she's like, well, you have to count it. So I started counting and I realized how much money I had. And I was like, I went ahead and just deposited as much as I could and only kept like 2,000 in my pocket. But it was just so ridiculous because we were only there for less than an hour. And I had never played just what I call unabetted, where I just lit, because I wasn't doing the betting, so I didn't know how much was out there, and I was just focusing on the game. And I knew Richard was smart enough I could trust him because I've known him for 20 years to just play his game and do the way he did. And he was like, we were almost to level 4, and then that means we were going to be $100 come bets, which we were literally playing the come, going up, hitting the point, bringing it back down. It was just, and taking max odds. It was fun.
No, I've had some stories like that with Uncle Mel, who's here. We'll go into a corporation where we both buy in for, I mean, as low as $250, as high as $1,000 each, and we'll play one bet. And when it's his turn to shoot, he has a pass line. When it's my turn to shoot, I have a pass line. We're not caring about comps, like who gives a shit, like who's getting the credit for the bets. But we've had times where we'll do it for $250 or $500 each.
No, most of the time the casinos think you're a couple. You don't need to worry about that. It's modern 2020.
Yeah, no. But,
we've had that mistake many times.
We're making like crazy ass profit. One shooter, we both made $2,700 just off one shooter. Another shooter, we both made over 40 something hundred off of just one shooter. Almost 10 grand. And another one, we made $7 grand each. And it's crazy. Everyone thinks like you need to go and bet 100 across each number, right? 700 across or something to make money playing craps. You don't. In all of those instances, we started with 76 inside, 20 on the 5 and 9, 18 on the 6-8, and we were able to cash out to the multitude of thousands each because of the fact that we know how to bet and we know our progressions. Once you get up there, you just have to be okay with leaving some money on the table. It's going to happen. $1,000 10, it's okay.
Yeah.
We collected on the $1,000 10, including a hard 10 that was at $100. So we're happy with that. We know, that we collected plenty of money leading up to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, just hanging out with some of the Hawaiian players this last couple days, seeing their strategy and betting and everything and progression and regressions has really opened up more ideas, more betting strategies for me to think about and look at in the future as well. So that was one of the things I got out of this last couple of days of the different sessions at Orleans and Durango. And so that was definitely look forward to trying some of those ideas out in the future.
Yeah, we definitely want to have you back on too, Alfredo, because one of the things we want to go over on one episode in the future when we plan it is how to do bankroll management, kind of just basic for generic listeners, and then the pitfalls to avoid for people who some of us have been playing craps for 30 years. There's a reason we can play craps for 30 years. One, you're either extremely in debt and you're just go broke and homeless eventually, or you're good at it. And that's a hard thing for people to understand.
Well, but you don't become good at it without failure, right? Those scars are deep enough that they make you feel like I'm not going to let that happen again. But you still do, right? You have that gut feeling of one more. And you allow yourself to leave your fucking bets up. And you're supposed to take them down. You're supposed to turn them off. And sure enough, a good portion of the time that 7 comes. And you go back to the thing of, okay, I need to stop being overly aggressive. My body's telling me I've been here before, and listen to myself.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big problem. I mean, a lot of people who have, enjoy gambling. My biggest problem with gambling that I had to kind of understand is I'm not addicted to the gambling part. I'm addicted to the gaming part. And being an individual who likes games, Richard and I literally met playing a board game. And that's how we became friends, was playing board games, like being nerds. And it kind of evolved into gambling, but I didn't understand that until I realized, okay, I can't sit here and play for 6 hours and expect to walk away with money when I had been up $2,000 or $3,000 and then just pissed it all away because I couldn't walk away from the table. And it was more because I enjoyed rolling the dice. And it would have been smarter to take my $2,000, $3,000 at the time, go buy a craps table, and then come home and roll. You know, that's all I wanted to do is roll the dice.